Welcome to the Code with Jason meetup. Today we're going to be working on some performance related stuff, implementing infinite scroll. Before we get into that, I want to show that SaturnCI finally has a public website. Um, it has this sign up button, and that's all that's there. So obviously quite minimal, but there is something there.
Yeah, that first small step. Yep, indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, yesterday somebody went and signed up for an account. It's a friend of mine. I think he was just checking it out. I don't think he actually intends to use it, but it's kind of neat to see that somebody went and signed up. Um, okay. So I'll share kind of where I'm at with some certain things. Again, big picture, I do have some users now using the product for free. Some of those users have said that they might eventually be willing to pay for the product, but it needs to have some certain stuff. And also, for example, one of my users has a brand new product and it's pre-revenue, and so they're not really in a position to want to pay for it at this point. But if their product continues, actually, they're not pre-revenue. That's not true. They just are very early still, and their revenue is pretty small. Um, but if the business continues to progress, then maybe they can justify paying for it, especially since they're not really using it or relying on it that much right now. But if in the future it becomes kind of a critical part of their workflow, maybe they'll be willing to pay for it. And then another user of mine, user of mine is using it for a side project. I think it's for the foreseeable future, it's just going to be like a an internal facing project. It's not going to have revenue or anything like that. Um, and so my friend who's trying that out, he said he might be willing to pay for it, but the project is just such an early stage that it's not justifiable now. So that's where I'm at with getting users and stuff like that. Um, and before I go into more technical stuff, um, are you guys interested in like hearing more about the business side of things, or do you guys want to go straight to the technical stuff? Any preference?
I would be interested also in the business side.
Mm-hmm.
It's always of interest for me.
Well, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jason, I have a
definitely
question for
interested. Yeah.
I have a question for
Oh,
you,
sorry.
Jason.
Let me moderate
Yeah,
a little bit.
yeah.
Sanjeet, let's go to you first.
Yeah, definitely interested in the that aspect. Yeah.
Okay. Jeff,
Yeah, are you planning on making this a commercial business?
definitely.
Okay, yeah, then I'd love to hear how it goes.
Yeah, and for background, I've been trying to build a successful product like this since about 2008. Um, and so this overall endeavor is a long time in the works. Um, but it's rare that I've had a viable idea. And I've had several attempts of varying quality in the past. Most of them never made any money at all. Um, the most successful one, or maybe I should say least unsuccessful one, was hair salon software. At its peak, it had 10 customers and it was making like $500 a month. Um, but I spent like 5 years on that before I finally pulled the plug. So this is like my next big attempt, and I don't see any reason why this can't be really big. Like Circle CI at one point was worth over $1 billion. Let's see, Circle CI valuation. Okay, as of January 2025, Circle CI was valued at 1.7 billion, according to Google's spurious AI thing. Um,
Well,
oh wow. Circle CI has a post-money valuation in the range of 1 billion to 10 billion. Anyway, um, Circle CI is obviously a very big business. Um, and I don't know if like GitHub Actions has its own like valuation. I don't think that idea like is a it makes business sense. But Anyway, I think there's a big opportunity. And so I'm gonna go pedal to the metal and see how big I can make it. If I can make it into $1 billion business, then that's what I want to do. Okay. So again, I have a few users using it for free. I want to get my first paid customers as soon as possible. And currently, what I think is my best idea is to go after agencies. And there's two reasons for that. One is that unlike a single product business, agencies are like starting up new projects all the time. So that's one. And then the other, wait. Sorry. One is that agencies tend to have more than one project, and the other is that they are often starting new projects. And I think that's like nobody's going to migrate their existing like 10-year-old project to SaturnCI, but if somebody's starting a new project, that's when they realistically might use this product. I'll pause there in case anybody has any questions about anything.
Yeah, that is true, in the sense and makes sense because if somebody has an established pipeline, they may not, decide to migrate to Saturn instead. If somebody is starting up anew, there's more of a market there, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. Um, so let me think for a second. Some of this I'm just thinking about for the first time right now. Because over the last few weeks, like I've worked with my free users and I've kind of given them what they told me they need for the most part, and now I'm just like waiting on them. Um, so like I was the bottleneck, now they're the bottleneck kind of. And so now my question to myself is like, what can I do to move forward? The product definitely has bottlenecks to it. Like the one that I'm focused on right at this moment is that the performance is not good enough. Like when I click from build to build, it feels sluggish. It feels honestly a little amateurish because it's so slow. So I want to fix some certain things like that. But it's not such a glaring defect that I can't get some like friendly users to use it. Like I wouldn't want to like throw this on Reddit or something like that and be like, "Hey world, come look at this." It's definitely not ready for that. But for some like more friendly users who I can like have a call with and stuff like that, um, I could work like that. So I've reached out to a couple agency owners I know. Maybe I should do that more. Yeah, I think no reason to wait on that. Um,
It,
okay.
if it,
Yeah,
it if it helps with something, this is also the conclusion that I've came that is no reason to wait in order to start charging. I mean,
right.
the sooner you do it, the better.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree. Um, okay, so shifting to more technical stuff, I mentioned this performance deficiency here. That's what I wanted to address today. So let's quantify this a little bit. So if I go to failed, actually let's not do that. Let's clear it. Okay, so if I click on this one here, we can see that the page load time, if I do it repeatedly, it's in the 200s, mid 200s. That's way slower than I want it to be. Um, and what is responsible for all that time? I did some poking around yesterday and I figured out that it was this list here. So I can prove that by removing this list temporarily. So this is the test case run list. So if I just delete this and then click this again, okay. So now if I click it repeatedly, you can see that it's well under 100 milliseconds every time. And so then my next question for myself was, well, What if instead of doing all these test case runs, I limit it to like 10? And you can see if I do 10, it's still well under 100 milliseconds. Most of the time, at least. I saw there was one that was above. But this is very good. 10, I think, is too few because we can see the end of the list here. Um, but let's say like, let's try like 50. Okay, so that's a little over 100. Maybe that's too many. Let's try 30. Okay, that seems decent. Yeah, I can live with that. All right. So maybe let's add infinite scroll here and go with 30. So how do we implement infinite scroll? I think first, I'm gonna do TDD for this as usual. So first, I think I want to assert that when we land on this page and then scroll to the bottom, okay, maybe it can be like this. We can have like 31 test case runs, and it's only going to show the first 30 initially. So we can assert that when we first land on the page, the 30, yeah, we can assert that when we first land on the page, the 31st test case run is not visible. And we can assert that when we scroll to the bottom of the page, um, the 31st test run is visible. But even before that, I'm noticing an issue. This last item here is like hidden down here. It's like it's like this element extends below the bottom of the viewport. So I think we're going to need to clean that up before we really can do this infinite scroll feature. So let's look into this. I have a suspicion as to what happened. Um, okay, I'm bringing back all of the test case runs. Okay, and we still have that problem. The very last one is like mostly cut off. Let's go to the CSS file for this. Okay, test case run list. Border 1 pixel solid red. Let's actually make it 2 pixels. Okay, so I can see that the bottom border of this element is visible, meaning that this element isn't cut off on the bottom. So that one's good. But what about this body? Yeah, okay, that was my suspicion. See how the left top and right borders are visible, but the bottom one's not? So this element is like too tall. Um, so uh how do I make it not too tall? Okay, so these elements here, test case run list header and test case run list body, those are this is the header, and then the thing with the red border is the body. So the problem is that the body is too tall. It extends beyond the bottom. Um, so test case run list. Let's look at the CSS for that. Okay, I wonder if here I can do display flex. Let's see if that by itself does anything. Oh, it does do something. Okay. Flex direction column. Okay. Well, I think that fixes it. That was easier than I expected. Well, it's nice. It's always nice when things turn out to be easy. Um, and I think this piece of CSS that I added earlier is no longer needed. Yeah, I made that header sticky, but now that this is a flex box, it doesn't need to be sticky anymore. Okay, wonderful. Okay, now we can return our attention to that test case we were going to write. I'm going to get this build started. Um, okay, so we're going to have, let's call it 31 test cases. So first of all, um, the first step that I list in my book, Professional Rails Testing, of how to write a test is decide where the test is going to go. There's a part where I just like break it down to the smallest possible steps. So it's like the first thing we have to decide is where this test is even going to go. So what's this feature? This is the test case list infinite scroll. So I'm going to make a directory here, test test case list, um, system, and then I'll go infinite scroll spec. Okay. And then the next step is to fill in the shell of the test. So I'll do some of that. And AI is a great help in writing tests. Um, Now I'm going to run it. Okay. Okay. And then the next step is to to fill in the steps just in English. So like create 30 test what is it, test case runs. And then we will visit a build. Okay. Um Actually, before we do that, we'll do create a build, create 30 test case runs for that build. Instead of visit a build, visit the build. Okay. And then we want to, oh, sorry, I didn't mean 30, I meant 31. Assert that the 31st test case run is not visible. Scroll to the bottom of the test case run list. Okay. And then assert that the 31st test case run is visible. Okay. And the reason I do that, the reason I do those comments is I'm separating the jobs of deciding what to do from figuring out how to do it. A lot of people, when they're writing tests, try to do both those things at once and it makes everything harder. So I separate those into two separate jobs. Okay. So create a build. That's easy. Now I can remove that comment. Create 31 test case runs for that build. Okay. A test case run is actually not related to a build. It's related to a build through a run. So I think I actually want to do this. I want to do let run create run, and then yep, let build run dot build. Then I can say let, yes, exactly. Except I want to separate this onto a couple lines. There we go, and that's not needed. Okay, now I'll run this. I'm running my test pretty much after every change, even though there's no assertions yet or anything like that, because if I make any mistakes, I want to catch them right away. So I can remove this comment now that I've done that step. Visit the build. Okay. What am I going to put for my description? I don't know yet. I'm just going to put it works because it'll be easier to decide what the description should be after I write the test than before. Um, okay, visit the build. Visit build path build. Okay. I actually don't know if that's going to work. Yeah, I think it's actually project build path. Let's open another test. Maybe that'll help Super Maven figure out how it's supposed to do this. Oh yeah, and of course, first we have to log in and make sure that works. It does not work. Why? Oh, undefined method build equals for an instance of test case run. Okay, when did that start happening? Oh yeah, because this is wrong. Okay. Okay, great. So now let's try this login again. Okay. Now we can visit this build path. Okay, that at least didn't give an error. I'm gonna put this stuff inside the text actually. Test. Assert that the 31st test case run is not visible. Okay. Um, let's hmm. Okay, so it's gonna sort these test case runs alphabetically. Um, let's look at exactly how it does this. Okay, failed first. That's how it always gets sorted. We store it by status, base name, and line number. Okay. Base name is file.basename path. Okay, and path is a database column. All right. So we can make the path for all these something that starts with like A, let's say. Let's just do 30. Path, spec models, um, Apple spec.rb. Let's see if that works. I don't know if the names have to be unique, the paths have to be unique. Okay, apparently they don't have to be unique, which is maybe concerning, but not going to worry about that right now. Okay, and then I'll say let last test case run do create test case run. Okay, nice try, I guess, but no. Zebra spec. Okay, make sure that runs. Okay, so just to be extra clear, I'm creating a total of 31 test case runs. The first 30 of them start with an A, and the 31st one starts with a Z. So if the limit's 30, then we should see all 30 of those first 30, but we shouldn't see zebra spec. Okay. Expect page not to have content, last test case run dot identifier. Okay, and I expect this test to fail because we haven't yet put anything in place to truncate this list. Okay, the test passed, which is not what I was expecting. So let's find out why it passed. Okay. Seems like it didn't pass because we're on this overview page, but it is not showing the list of test case runs. Interesting. And it's even trying to go to the certain test case run path. Because when you visit a build, it redirects you to the first test case run. Um, it's trying to go there, but it's not showing the list, which is surprising. So let's find out why that's happening. Okay, so here's the build controller. Um, we're saying if there are any test case runs, then redirect to that test case run. And it looks like that is already happening. So let's go to the test case run controller. Okay. And then the view for this is this. It renders builds detail. Okay. Oh yeah, it only renders that view if the build's finished. So we need to make the build finished. Okay, how do we make the build finished? Okay, we can manipulate the status. Okay. So I guess we can just make the builds run past. Past. Okay. And actually, I think I want a failed run. I think that's more realistic. Okay. Okay, now let's run this and see what happens. Hmm. Still passes. Okay. So let's lay eyes on this again and see if we see anything different. Okay, we do see something different. Oh, okay. So the reason we're not seeing zebra spec is because zebra spec is on the page, but it's at the bottom here. Interesting. So how do we assert that that's not there? Oh, we could look at this number here. Yeah. No, but that number would still be the same. Yeah, that number should always, if there's 31 test cases total, this should say 31. Hmm. So how do we assert that it's only showing these 30 and not this one? We could count the elements. Um, let's see how we might do that. And let me give it my test also. Get rid of that. Okay. Copy this. I don't want to expect it to be less than 30. I want to expect that it's exactly 30. Okay, great. Now it fails. Expected 30, got 31. That's exactly what I want. All right. Now the dumbest way to make this test pass is I can just change this to 0 dot dot 29, and then it should pass. Yeah. All right. So then I'll write more tests to make um to force us to write the rest of this. So I'll put here it initially shows only the first 30 test case runs. Okay. And then describe scrolling to the bottom, sure. It shows any remaining test case runs. Sure. Yeah, okay. 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 Page that executes scripts. All right, that's kind of the right idea, but it's not scrolling the right element. We need to scroll, what was it? Is this test case run list body? Okay. We need we need to we need to scroll to the bottom of specifically specifically test case run list body. Okay. It's a bit nasty, but we'll see if it works. It's made some mistake. Let's see what it might have been. Syntax error on line 44, double end. Okay. Cannot read properties of null reading scroll height. Interesting. Okay. Let's do a little manual experimentation here. So, document.query selector. Um, test case run list body. Okay, it found it. Can we scroll to the bottom of it? List, oops, list dot scroll top equals list dot scroll height. Okay, that worked. But for some reason, there's a problem in the test. All right, so let's do this. Hmm. It had a problem before it even got there. Oh, we're not even visiting the page. All right, let's move that to the before. Okay. Let's see what this. Okay, expected to find zebra speck, but it didn't. Okay. And just to make extra sure that what is happening matches what we think is happening, let's open up the browser again and take a look. Yep, it has scrolled to the bottom. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so I am not sure how I'm going to implement this. And I don't want to have to be juggling a lot of things in my head at the same time. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a new branch called test case run list infinite scroll. And I'm going to say add test for infinite scroll. Okay. And I'm going to get this one running because I'm curious what's going to happen. Okay. Um, so what we want is when we scroll to the bottom, first of all, when we scroll to the bottom of this, we want to take some action. What exactly is that action going to be? Not sure yet, but I know for sure that we want to be able to tell when we're scrolled to the bottom of this element. So let's figure out how we want to do that. Okay, so this test case run list, the name of this is going to get more and more deeply baked into the system. Let me make sure that I'm actually happy with that name. So I'm obviously very familiar with this area of code. Um, can anybody explain? This is a test of me. It's not a test of you. Can anybody explain why it's called test case run list?
It's a list of test case runs.
Okay. And what to you is a test case run?
It is a one run of all of the test cases for a build.
Okay. Hmm. That's not quite it.
Or is it
Um,
the list of test cases that have run?
well,
No?
maybe I should ask a different question. What is one individual test case run? Um, some of the stuff, it's like, is it poorly explained or is it just actually a difficult concept? Um, so I make the distinction between a test run and a test case run, just as I make a distinction between a test file and a test case. So is it clear what I mean by test case? Because there's like a distinction between a test file and a test case.
Well, I would assume a test file could have many test cases.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and every test case can have any number of runs because it's like a test case has one run per build. And so each one of these is a test case run. And I'm not sure whether or not that's the best possible way of expressing that, but it's the least worst thing I can think of. Um, I'm guessing that no obviously better names are jumping to mind for anyone.
Not particularly. I mean, when you think about the domain of testing, that's pretty expressive.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to do
Although
that.
I
Uh-huh.
hate sprinkling all of these test words in there when we're doing testing.
Oh yeah.
You get kind of test overloaded, but I don't see a way around that.
Yeah. Same here. Um, okay. So this is interesting. There's apparently already a test case run controller, which I forgot about. So let's see what that's all about. Oh, interesting. Oh, and I have a console.log in here. Um, so this controller is it's what handles making these links turn blue because it gives these links their active state when you click on them. So that's interesting. Um, Another thing that's interesting is I think this controller has the wrong name. It's not a test case run controller, it's a test case run list controller. So before anything, let's fix that name. Um, and I want to make the delta between main and this branch as small as possible. And fixing this controller name doesn't depend on this infinite scroll work at all. So I'm going to fix the controller name on main. Test case run JS. Okay. So let's rename this file to test case run list controller. Okay. And take out this console.log also. And then on that test case run list page, we can change test case run to test case run list. And let's see if it continues to work or not.
And thank you, Jason. You just prevented me from rage quitting. That's one of my pet peeves is um, unrelated changes in a branch.
Oh, yeah. I call them riders. Like if you're
Yes.
familiar with the concept of
Right.
a rider on a bill in Congress.
Yes. That's when you know you have your process is way too heavy when people will just throw unrelated changes in because the cost of having to fill out all the paperwork for a new
Yeah.
story and all of that, it just is way too much. So let me just stick that in here.
Yeah, it's awful. Um, okay. And it's funny, like the more you do that, the more bugs there will be in your branch. And so then the more riders you'll have to throw in. It's like a self-perpetuating
Yes.
phenomenon.
Just give people the power to do a quick two-line change in a branch and be done with it.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so for some reason this is not working. We see these things don't get highlighted as I click on them. So why is that happening? Oh, here's an issue. Test case run, make active. Test case run, list make active. One thing I find to be desired in stimulus is that it often can fail kind of silently. Okay, so this doesn't clear, so we need to fix that. Hmm, target. Oh, test case run list target. See another silent failure. Okay, now it works. Review my changes. Okay, no surprises. Rename um, test case run controller to test case run list controller. Yes. All right, and I will make sure that one runs because I don't want to risk introducing a regression. I really enjoy the fact that SaturnCI can be used on SaturnCI. Okay, so now that I've done that, I can switch back to my branch and I want to rebase the change that I just made. We have a conflict, unshockingly. Okay, and we want to keep this one, of course. Oh, we want to keep that. Yeah, okay. Okay, I want to make sure that one runs too. Okay, so we have our controller name fixed, and now we can turn our attention back to what we were doing. Test case list HTML, test case controller JS. Yeah. So we want to detect when the user scrolls to the bottom. How can I detect when the user scrolls to the bottom of test case run list body? Um, okay. It's annoying that there's two. I never am happy about this when it happens. Let's see. On scroll. Okay. I'm just gonna say I prefer this response, even though I don't know. Okay. So I'm actually not sure that I want to repurpose the same controller, but I'm also not sure that I don't want to repurpose it. We'll decide that later. Okay. Now, which element is the controller on? It's on this UL. Interesting. But that's not the thing that's being scrolled. Build detail HTML. Okay. Now, before we go much further with this, let's scrutinize what I have here, because I have a strong suspicion that I've created a little bit of a conceptual mess on this page. So first, before we look again at the code, let's look at the UI and just familiarize ourselves a little bit. So on the left, we have what I'm calling the build list. We have the build filter. Here we have this build overview tab. But as you can see, when we go to the overview tab, it just puts us on the first test case run. So it's showing us a test case run inside the build overview tab. Man, maybe overview is not even the right word. Maybe it's like test case runs. Test case runs. That feels weird though. Test cases. It's like there's a bit of a compromise to be made between um, precision and there's a compromise to be made between being appropriately precise and
Being
uh,
self-explanatory, isn't it?
sorry, Sanjit.
Being self-explanatory.
Yeah, being self-explanatory and like conforming to colloquialisms.
Ah,
Here's a question for you, Jason.
Hmm.
What what can show up in this tab? So right now we have the details for a test case run. Can
Hmm.
anything else show up here?
That's
Like
a
when
good
there's,
question.
yeah,
I think the answer to that question is up to us.
okay.
Yeah. And so right now, it's like before a build starts, this overview page says build not started. And I realized the other day that, like, okay, right now, whether the build passes or fails, I'm showing the first test case run. That policy absolutely makes sense in the case of a failure because when a test run fails, the thing I want to see is the failures. And so I sort this list with the failures first, and it shows me the first failure. So that I am 100% sure makes sense. But if we go to the past ones, it's like when a test run passes, I'm not sure that what I'm interested in is information about the first passing test. And in fact, it's really just an arbitrarily selected passing test. It's whatever happens to alphabetically be first. And so this is not here because it's actually the right information to show. It's just here because incidentally, this happens to be the first test. And so that's maybe a question worth asking is what is this page for? Like when the build passes, what should be shown on this page? One thought I had is like some stats about the test run, like how many tests run, which one was the fastest, or sorry, which one was the slowest, maybe some other stuff like that.
Yep. Um, yeah, and what you're really doing is what the failed test is you want to jump right into the detail.
Right.
Although I hate to suggest making tab bloat.
Oh, why do you say that? What did you have in
Well, I
mind?
mean, just like have an overview and then have, I don't know if you can have like a test case detail tab. Um, it almost feels
Sure.
like you should have, you know, the overview for passes and fails, and then jump right into the detail tab for fails,
Well,
almost.
let's okay, so in order to talk about this further, I'm actually going to change something so that it might aid the discussion. All right, so I'm going to go back to main. Okay, I'm going to go to this menu and change overview to test cases.
What happens when you click on runner one and two?
It shows you the log output.
Okay, cool.
Hmm. Okay. So runner one and runner two, this is like, you know, unlike with CircleCI and GitHub Actions, where they really like put the parallel, they put the individual runners in your face. I want to treat the individual runners as the incidental detail that they are. And so you'll probably only go into these runners if you're interested in diagnostics. Like, for example, a test failed. So maybe I want to see it in context. So maybe I go here and I look at this.
Oh, I need to go. The cable guy's here.
Oh, okay.
Talk to you later.
Thanks for coming.
Yep.
Okay. And we're about at time, but I'm going to keep going today because I think my wife's dropping the kids off at some place, and so she's not going to miss me. So I can keep going for a bit. If you guys need to drop off, that's totally fine.
I'm going to stay around for a bit, Jason. Today is one of those few days when I can stay back.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, these runners are kind of incidental details. The main thing that we're going to be dealing with is this page. In fact, in my personal usage of Saturn CI, ever since I've added this tab, I've like almost never gone to these tabs. Actually, it's not quite true. I go to these tabs when I want to like see the output just because I'm impatient and I like want to see something happening. But when the test suite is already done and I want to see something about them, like in this case, for example, it's like, oh, what failed? Oh, it's this. I'm not going to go to these because I have all the info I need here. So this is like the main thing. But when I look at this, it's like, okay, runner one, runner two, and test cases. It doesn't really feel right. It seems like it should maybe be like all tests. Hmm. I don't know. Test overview. Hmm. Any thoughts? I'm really not sure. Okay, this shows us the test cases. Test cases. Hmm. But yeah, it's like, okay, but runner one and runner two, they have test cases too. Maybe overview is the least worst thing. At least maybe it's the least worst thing that I can think of right now. Maybe something better will become clear
You
later.
know what? I think in the interest of it, I think overview will suffice for now.
Okay. Okay. Well then let's go to the build detail page. Um, so this shows our header with the run and delete button. Side note, this should actually say rerun and delete, but we can deal with that separately. Um, it has our, okay, so it has this build body turbo frame. The build body turbo frame is basically everything, everything below this heading, I think, is the build body turbo frame. So actually, maybe it even includes the heading. But when we click on these various builds on the left, it changes the build body. That's what that is. Okay, build overview wrapper. I don't love that. And we have the test case run detail, test case run list. Okay, so build overview wrapper. What exactly is that? Interesting. So that's the build overview wrapper. Hmm. I feel like it should really just be called build overview. Why wrapper? And you know what? There's something right now that we're calling overview. Oh, it's build overview.css. Okay. That I think is a good name. Build detail HTML. Okay, so build overview wrapper. Is there anything that's called build overview? Just build overview and that's it? No. Okay, so I think we can rename. build overview wrapper to just build overview. Because I don't think the wrapper helps anything. It just makes things a little confusing. See if there's still any references to it anywhere. Doesn't look like it. Rename. And first, did my most recent test run pass on main? Yes. Okay. Rename build overview wrapper to build overview. Okay, great. Okay, and just a general comment on this template. It's kind of big. It's kind of hard to understand. I think there's some decent abstraction in this header and in this menu. But then once we get into the build overview itself, we're presented with very low level details. Maybe we could benefit from some abstraction. Hmm. Okay, so if the build is finished, then we show all this stuff. If it's not finished, then we just show this like waiting status. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Okay. Something I'm a little confused about is that this file is called builds detail. There's no template called build overview. And so like I think maybe there's some conceptual muddiness there. Should this be called build overview? Maybe it should, because that really is what it is. Okay. And um we have to update these to match. Okay. And this feels like a little bit of a riskier change. I'm gonna run this one. And since this is a little bit of a riskier change, I'm gonna do it on a separate branch. Rename build detail to build overview. Okay, let's get that one going. Okay, we don't have to wait. We can look at some other stuff while we're waiting for that. Um, build overview. Yeah, this part still feels a bit messy and hard to understand. Okay, test case run detail. What's that? Yeah. Hmm. I just realized something, maybe. Okay. So when we have a failure, This is something I recently added. I'm kind of proud of it. Let's see if it actually works. But when we have a failure, we are able to get these screenshots. I don't know where that went. Um, is this it? Yeah, this is it. Okay. So this is the screenshot I downloaded just now. So if we want to see like what was going on when this failed, we can see that. Eventually, I just like to show it in line here, but that's the way it works now.
So
Um,
is that something like a point in time snapshot?
exactly.
Ah, okay.
Um, so it shows a link to all the screenshots for this build. When I go to a past one, it still shows the screenshots. Seems like that doesn't make complete sense because that's kind of a diagnostic thing for a failure. So let's move that. Um, test case run details. Okay. So there's this failure info. Man, this thing is this template is kind of all messed up. Okay, it should be like if there's a failure, show one page. If it's not a failure, show a different page. I'm not even going to mess with this at all right now. Okay, let's come back to this. All right, anyway, this details page shows either the success or failure. Hmm. Okay, this test case run list body, what's in there again? Test case run list. Yeah, I think actually this should be like this. Whoops. Okay. And then this goes here, there. Okay. Yeah. Let's see if that works. I'd be surprised if I didn't make any mistakes. Okay. Seems perhaps to work. Okay, so renaming this build overview wrapper to build overview is surprisingly fine. Not surprisingly fine, I meant to say. Um, so far, so good with this one. Okay, so what that achieved in my mind is we didn't really have abstraction here. Now we have better abstraction because instead of being presented with all these details, we just have this test case run list thing here. Now this template's a little big and hard to understand, but we can deal with that separately. Okay, and hopefully this one's almost done. Okay, both the runners are done. Okay, passed. Wonderful. Git merge, rename. There we go. Great. Get that one going. Okay. Now let's come back to this build overview template. And there's still a couple things I don't love about this. Here we have test case run slash details, but then builds, test case run list. Why is it in builds? I think it should be in test case runs. So let's do move app views builds test case run list to app views test case runs list. Whoops. Okay. So now this will be test case run slash list. That appears to still work. All right, so that's nicer now. They match, so it's a little more clear. It's like, oh, details list. Okay. Whoops. Okay. Build overview. And then I'm still not totally happy with this. Um, let's see. This is when the build is not finished. Hmm. Whoops. Should maybe actually be something more like overview, not finished. I love that name, but I can't think of anything better. Okay, let's go to one that's not finished. Okay. Okay. Now that is much cleaner than it was. Okay. Okay. And actually, for the moment, I'm going to go into my settings after this page reloads. Go into my settings and I'm going to make it so it automatically starts the builds on git push. That way I won't have to keep doing it manually. Okay. Now we can finally turn our attention back to the infinite scroll. I don't even remember what the branch was called. Test case run list infinite scroll. Okay. We can do git rebase main. Okay, and we have some conflicts. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. Okay, and now that should show up and automatically start running now that I've changed that setting. Yep, there it is. Okay. Now, where were we? All right, we want to detect that scrolling. Oh, this is no good. It kept this. I guess I made a mistake. Okay. Test case run list. Test case run list controller. Okay. Yeah, so I guess our issue was that the controller is on this test case run list element. Or sorry, it's on this UL element. Build overview test case runs. This is weird because it's like not really meaningfully distinct from this stuff. Okay, so I think we still have some work we need to do before we are ready to resume the infinite scroll. Okay, so the reason this UL has a class at all, build overview test case runs. Yeah, it has a class so that we can put some CSS on it. Hmm. Okay. So what's the difference between test case run list body and build overview test case runs? Test case run list body. Okay. And then build overview test case runs. Okay. So build overview test case runs has some like font stuff and stuff like that. So this stuff can certainly be moved to test case run list body. Just I'm trying to consolidate and simplify as much as I can. Okay, so that appears to still work. Build overview test case runs. Okay. And then this margin and padding, I think this can be changed. We can do this. Yeah. See if that still looks the same. And just to check, do we even need that at all? We do. Okay. So now I think that obviates the need for that class. Ooh, no, it doesn't. Okay. All right. Build overview test case runs. Hmm. Okay. But we can change this stuff too. Um, okay. Test case run list body. So we can replace build overview test case runs with test case run. Oh, what was it called? Test case run list body UL. I think we can do that. Okay. And in fact, how about let's create a new style sheet called test case run list. And everything to do with the test case run list, we can put in here. Okay. And I happen to know that these are related to that. Okay, so let's see if that all still works. Okay, looks like it does. Okay, and these fail, but I think they're going to fail in the way I expect. Yes. Okay, main still passes. Great. Okay, so I'll review my changes. No surprises there. Okay, now let's go back to the infinite scroll branch. Rebase main once again. Go to test case run list. Okay. Oh, and now can we finally get rid of this class? The fact that this page takes so long to load is another thing I want to address soon. This is crazy. Okay. Okay, looks like we can take that class out now. Okay, test case run list. HTML. Okay, so the purpose of all of that is so that maybe we could move this controller from this UL to this div. Because again, the div is the thing that scrolls. All right, test case run list controller. So what I did just now was an instance of Kent Beck's make the hard change easy and then make the easy change. Okay, so can we take this and move that controller to there? And the test is whether these links still work correctly. And they do. So apparently the answer to whether we can do that or not is yes, we can. Okay.
Nothing like a proof, eh? That's
Yeah. Okay. Move stimulus controller to different element. Let's just check on our test run, see how they're doing. Still waiting to finish. Okay. Okay, so now I think we can add our thing that detects the scrolling. Okay, on scroll. So when it connects, we add this on scroll listener, and when it disconnects, we take the listener away. That seems reasonable to me. Okay. And then on scroll, I'm not going to do all this stuff yet. I'm just going to do a small test. Where we say console.log. Sure, scroll. All right, let's open this up. Oh, yeah. But it didn't seem to immediately show up. Maybe it did. Okay. Okay, so it's detecting scroll. What about scroll to bottom? Okay, I guess we can add this. Okay, if the element scroll top plus If the element scroll top plus the client height is greater than or equal to the scroll height minus 10. Why minus 10? Oh, ensures the uh, buffered hmm, acts as a small buffer to ensure the event fires slightly before reaching the absolute bottom. Oh, precision issues. Okay, that's reasonable. But let's make that a little clearer. Yeah. And we're not going to do load more. We're just going to do console.log hit bottom.
Jason, I'm going to drop off now, okay? Talk
Okay.
next week, yeah? Okay.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
coming. See you next time.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Daniel, you're the last man standing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, oh yeah, it says we hit the bottom. Okay, wonderful. So now we actually have to load more items. Okay. And actually, this should be limited. Okay. So yeah, we get to the bottom here and it should load more of them. Um, how do we do that? Hmm. Okay. Very interesting question. Maybe we want to have some kind of turbo stream. So when it hits the bottom, an API request is made and it hits a controller that grabs the next chunk of test case runs and broadcasts them to here. Yeah, I think that's what we want. Okay, so here, now we can do load more. This dot load more. Okay, and we could do like hit um what would the URL be? The tests case runs get test case runs. Yeah, I guess so. And we don't already have an index action. Okay. 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 So I'm gonna give this to ChatGPT and this. I'm just gonna say, how do I make load more work? I'm guessing it's gonna give me a crappy answer, but I'm just curious what it's gonna say. Okay, modify the controller to support pagination. Create a partial to render additional test case runs. Update stimulus to fetch more. Hmm. But I'm not sure I want to do it like this. I think I want to. Oh, okay. So I was going to say I think I want to use a turbo stream, but this one does use a turbo stream. Okay. Hmm. This is interesting. But I'm suspicious. This doesn't feel right. I'm just gonna search for something. Turbo stream infinite scroll. I wonder if anybody's implemented this already. Okay, so here we have these Rails actions or these Rails helpers. Okay, so this guy's using some kind of library, turbo frame tag with this certain source. But how do you trigger the loading of more? Maybe I saw it up here. Yeah, next link. Yeah, it's using this pagey URL. All right, whatever pagey is, I don't want to use it. Infinite scroll using turbo only. I don't think I can do that because um, my load more is triggered by a JavaScript event scrolling. All right, I'm going to ask this. Using JS, how do I trigger a turbo stream load? Hmm, interesting. Okay, and let's look at the official turbo stream docs. I've always found the turbo stream docs, sadly, to be a little hard to understand. Streaming from HTTP responses, okay. Reusing server-side templates. What about running JavaScript? Okay, if you want to trigger additional behavior when these actions are carried out, you should attach behavior using stimulus controllers, custom actions before stream render. Okay, these look like hook type things. Integration with server-side frameworks. Okay. Doesn't look like it has the exact answer I'm seeking. So maybe the least worst thing is to do this request like this. And I'm fine with that. But I've been going almost 2 hours now. I think it's probably about time to wrap up for the day. Sadly, we didn't get all the way done with the infinite scrolling, but at least we have a test and a pretty clear path forward. All right, Daniel, thanks for joining me. Dear YouTube viewer, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
The best.